Millionaire abandoned his pregnant secretary. 20 years later, his secret daughter faced him. Ariadne Stevens stood in the back of the ballroom with a champagne flute in one hand and her birth certificate in the other. She wasn't supposed to be here. The $5,000 per plate charity gala wasn't exactly in a janitor's budget. But she'd walked in through the service entrance like she owned the place, borrowed a server's abandoned tray, and blended into the crowd of Manhattan's wealthiest. All to get close to him. Robert Hadley stood on stage, silver-haired and smiling, talking about integrity. About family values. About how his company prioritized people over profits. Ariadne almost laughed. Almost. Instead, she started walking toward the stage. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, you just walked into the most intense moment. Seriously, perfect timing. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now because this story is about to go absolutely crazy. You don't want to miss what happens next. The crowd was thick, but Ariadne moved through it like water. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Security hadn't noticed her yet. Good. On stage, Robert's voice boomed through the microphone. We have a responsibility to the next generation. To leave them a better world than we found. That's when Ariadne reached the front. Tell them about your daughter. Her voice cut through the ballroom. Not loud. But clear enough. Robert stopped mid-sentence. His eyes found hers in the crowd. For a moment, nothing. Then his face went white. Tell them, Ariadne said, louder now, about the secretary you got pregnant 20 years ago. The one you paid to disappear. Gasps erupted around her. Phones came out. Cameras turned. Security moved, but Robert raised his hand, stopping them with a single gesture. Who are you? He asked, but his voice shook. He knew. She could see it in his eyes, he already knew. Ariadne held up the birth certificate for everyone to see. Her hands were steadier than she expected. I'm Ariadne Stevens. My mother was Mallory Stevens. She worked for you in 2004. And according to this, she waved the document, you're my father. The ballroom exploded. Voices. Cameras flashing. Someone shouted a question. Someone else gasped. But Ariadne only watched Robert. He stood frozen on that stage, a man whose perfect life had just cracked open in front of 200 witnesses. I've been cleaning your office for 6 months, Ariadne continued. Every Sunday night. You never noticed me. You never notice anyone who isn't rich or useful. Please, Robert finally spoke, stepping down from the stage. Not here. We can talk. My mother died 3 weeks ago. That stopped him. Stopped everyone. Cancer, Ariadne said quietly. She couldn't afford the treatment that might have saved her. She worked 3 jobs her whole life. Raised me alone. And you know what she told me before she died? Robert just stared. She said she didn't want me to hate you. She said there were things I didn't understand. Things she couldn't tell me because of the papers you made her sign. Ariadne pulled out a thick envelope. But she's gone now. And those NDAs died with her. She threw the envelope at his feet. Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Your office. Just you and me. No lawyers. No security. No checkbook. Her voice was steel. You're going to tell me the truth about why you abandoned us. All of it. And if I don't? Robert asked. Ariadne smiled, cold and sharp. Then every reporter in New York gets copies of everything in that envelope. Bank transfers. Photos. Emails. Medical records from when she tried to contact you to tell you I was born. All of it. She turned to leave. Wait. 9 a.m., Mr. Hadley. Don't be late. Ariadne walked out through the main entrance this time. Head high. Heart racing. Behind her, Chaos erupted, voices shouting questions, Robert's PR team scrambling, someone calling for order. She'd done it. The elevator doors closed, and only then did Ariadne let herself shake. She looked at her reflection in the polished metal doors, her mother's face staring back. Her mother's brown eyes. Her mother's courage. But her father's sharp jaw. His dark hair. His height. A stranger's features on her own face. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. 9 a.m. I'll be there. Please come alone. There are things you need to know. Things about your mother. Things that will change everything. Ariadne stared at the message. What could possibly change anything? He'd gotten her mother pregnant and thrown money at the problem. Simple. Cruel. Done. She typed back, just be there. But as the elevator descended toward the New York streets, a small voice in her head whispered the question she'd been ignoring. If it was so simple, why had her mother, honest, straightforward Mallory Stevens, kept secrets even on her deathbed? What wasn't she being told? 12 hours until she found out. 12 hours until the truth shattered everything she thought she knew. And absolutely no idea that tomorrow morning wouldn't just give her answers, it would introduce her to a half-brother she never knew existed, uncover a conspiracy that threatened both their lives, and force her to choose between the revenge she'd planned and a family she never expected. The night air hit her face as she stepped onto Fifth Avenue. Tomorrow, everything changed. The apartment was exactly as her mother had left it. Ariadne stood in the doorway at 2 a.m., still wearing the black dress she'd stolen from a donation bin at the church. The lights were off, but she didn't need them. She knew every inch of this place, the worn couch with the broken spring in the left cushion, the kitchen table with the wobbly leg her mother had propped up with folded cardboard, the framed photo of the two of them at Ariadne's high school graduation. The only photo where her mother looked truly happy. She dropped her keys on the counter and finally let the tears come. I did it, Mom, she whispered to the empty room. I found him. I told him. Just like you asked. But her mother wasn't there to answer. Would never answer again. Ariadne walked to the small bedroom they'd shared for 18 years, before she'd insisted on taking the couch so her mother could have privacy, could rest properly during the brief hours between her shifts at the hospital cafeteria and the overnight cleaning job. The medical bills were still stacked on the dresser. $63,000. Even with payment plans, even with her mother working herself to the bone, it hadn't been enough. The cancer had moved faster than they could pay. Ariadne picked up the envelope her mother had given her that final lucid afternoon. She'd looked through it 100 times in the past 3 weeks, but now she spread the contents across the bed again. The birth certificate listing father, unknown. Bank statements showing a single deposit of $50,000, dated March 2004. Withdrawn the same day. A photocopy of a non-disclosure agreement, signed by Mallory Stevens. The terms were brutal, complete silence about Robert Hadley, their relationship, and any potential consequences thereof in exchange for the money. Violation meant returning every cent plus damages. $50,000. That's what Ariadne's existence had been worth to him. Her mother had used it for a security deposit on this apartment, a used car that died 5 years later, and a small savings account for Ariadne's education. It had been gone before Ariadne turned 10. But there was something else in the envelope. Something that had kept Ariadne awake every night since she'd found it. A letter. Unopened. Addressed to Mallory Stevens, dated June 2004, 3 months after the NDA was signed. 2 months before Ariadne was born. The return address was a law office in Connecticut. Not Robert's lawyer's. Someone else's. Her mother had never opened it. Had kept it hidden for 20 years. Why? Ariadne asked the silence. What were you protecting? Him? Me? What didn't you want me to know? A knock at the door made her jump. She checked her phone. 2:17 a.m. Nobody came to this neighborhood at 2 a.m. unless they were lost or dangerous. Another knock. Ariadne? It's me. She relaxed. That voice she knew. Opening the door, she found Theodore Cabot standing in the hallway, still in his security uniform from the museum where he worked nights. His dark eyes were concerned behind his glasses. Saw the video, he said simply. Half of Twitter saw the video. You okay? Ariadne let him in. Theo had been her best friend since sophomore year of high school, when he'd found her crying in the library after yet another scholarship rejection. He'd helped her fill out applications, proofread her essays, celebrated when she got into Columbia, and held her when she'd had to drop out after one semester because her mother got sick. I'm fine, she lied. Right. And I'm the King of England. Theo closed the door behind him, shrugged off his jacket. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen you do. Possibly both. He deserved it. I'm not arguing. Theo sat on the couch, patted the cushion beside him. But confronting a billionaire in front of Manhattan's elite? Ari, these people have power. They have lawyers. They have ways of making problems disappear. Let him try. But Ariadne sat down anyway, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried her through the evening was draining away, leaving only the hollow ache of grief. Theo was quiet for a moment. Then, your mom wouldn't have wanted you to destroy yourself for revenge. This isn't revenge. Ariadne stopped. What was it? Justice? Closure? A daughter's rage at watching her mother die while the man responsible lived in a penthouse? It's complicated, she finished weakly. Show me the letter. Ariadne blinked. What? The unopened letter. I know you, Ari. You've been obsessing over something. I can see it in your eyes. Theo adjusted his glasses, a nervous habit he'd had forever. Your mom kept secrets. Maybe it's time to find out why. Ariadne retrieved the envelope from the bedroom. The paper had yellowed slightly with age, but the seal was intact. She never opened it, Ariadne said. 20 years. She kept it hidden in a safety deposit box with all the other documents, but she never looked inside. Maybe she was scared of what it said. My mother wasn't scared of anything. Everyone's scared of something. Theo turned the envelope over in his hands. Permission to speak as your best friend and not your enabler? When have I ever been able to stop you? What if this meeting tomorrow doesn't go the way you think? What if Robert Hadley isn't the villain you need him to be? Theo's voice was gentle. What if your mom kept secrets because the truth was more complicated than rich man abandons pregnant secretary? Ariadne wanted to argue. Wanted to insist it was exactly that simple. But she thought about her mother's final words, there are things you don't understand. Things I should have told you. Find him. Talk to him. Let him explain. Except her mother had died before she could say what needed explaining. Open it, Ariadne decided suddenly. You sure? No. But do it anyway. Theo carefully broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of letterhead from Morrison and Associates, attorneys at law. The message was brief. Dear Miss Stevens. This letter is to inform you that you have been named as a beneficiary in a trust established by the late Eleanor Hadley. The terms of the trust stipulate that information regarding your inheritance cannot be disclosed until specific conditions are met. These conditions are as follows. 1. The trust grantor's death occurred March 2004. 2. The birth of your child, pending. 3. Said child's 20th birthday. Upon fulfillment of all conditions, you and your child are entitled to claim assets held in trust, including property, financial instruments, and certain documents of a sensitive nature. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience to discuss next steps. Regards. Harrison Morrison, ESQ. Ariadne read it twice. 3 times. The words didn't make sense. Eleanor Hadley, Theo said slowly. Robert's mother? She died the same month my mother signed the NDA. Ariadne's mind was racing. Why would Robert's mother leave us anything? She didn't even know about me. I wasn't born yet. But she knew your mom was pregnant. Theo pointed to the second condition. This letter assumes a child. She knew Mallory was pregnant with her grandchild. A trust. Assets. Documents of a sensitive nature. My birthday was 2 weeks ago, Ariadne whispered. All the conditions have been met. They stared at each other. You need to call this lawyer, Theo said. Tomorrow. Before you meet with Robert. No. Ariadne stood up, pacing now. No, I need leverage. If I call them first, Robert might find out. Might have time to prepare, to spin this, too. To what? Ari, his own mother left you an inheritance. That means something. It means she felt guilty about what her son did. Or, Theo said carefully, it means there's a completely different story that nobody told you. Ariadne stopped pacing. Looked at her best friend, who knew her better than anyone alive now that her mother was gone. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. What if I'm wrong about him? What if I just humiliated him in front of everyone and he's not? What if he's not the monster I need him to be? Then you deal with it. Like you deal with everything. By being stubborn and brilliant and refusing to give up. Theo stood, pulled her into a hug. But you don't have to do this alone. Whatever happens tomorrow, I've got your back. Ariadne held on to him, grateful beyond words. Her phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. Please don't go to the press. I know you don't believe me, but I loved your mother. What happened? It wasn't what you think. Come tomorrow. Let me explain. Let me tell you about Eleanor. About the promise I made. About why I couldn't. The message cut off. Then another. I have a son. Christopher. He's 17. He doesn't know about you. This will devastate him. I'm asking for one conversation before everything explodes. One chance. That's all. A son. A half-brother. Ariadne felt the ground shift beneath her feet again. He has another kid, she showed Theo the message. A son. Younger than me. So he built the family he denied you, Theo said grimly. But something in the message nagged at Ariadne. He doesn't know about you. This will devastate him. Not embarrass. Not complicate. Devastate. What kind of relationship did Robert have with his son that a secret half-sister would devastate rather than just shock? She typed back, 9 a.m. Come alone. Bring proof of everything you claim. And bring the truth about your mother's trust. She hesitated, then added, I'm not trying to destroy your life. I just want answers. The response came immediately, thank you. I promise you'll have them. Ariadne set down her phone and looked at Theo. Stay tonight? Obviously. Someone needs to make sure you actually sleep instead of spiraling. He headed for the kitchen. I'll make tea. You get the blankets. And tomorrow. Tomorrow I meet my father. The words felt strange in her mouth. Foreign. For 20 years, Robert Hadley had been a phantom, a name, a man-shaped hole in her life. Tomorrow he became real. Tomorrow she got answers. And somehow, despite everything, despite the anger and the grief and the betrayal, a tiny, treacherous part of her heart hoped that those answers would be something she could live with. Something that would let her forgive the mother who'd kept secrets. And maybe, impossibly, forgive the father who'd been absent. But forgiveness required truth. And the truth, Ariadne was beginning to suspect, was far darker and more complicated than anyone had prepared her for. The Maguire financial tower looked different in daylight. Ariadne had only ever seen it at night, when the marble floors she mopped gleamed empty under fluorescent lights and the offices sat dark and silent. Now, at 8:47 a.m., the lobby buzzed with life, executives in sharp suits, assistants juggling coffee and files, delivery people wheeling carts. She walked past the security desk where she normally signed in as cleaning staff. The guard didn't even glance at her. Invisible, just like always. The elevator to the executive floors required a key card. Ariadne waited, watching the numbers tick down. When the doors opened, a young man stepped out, distracted by his phone. She caught the door before it closed and slipped inside. 9th floor. Her heart hammered as the elevator climbed. She'd rehearsed this 100 times in her head. Stay calm. Stay focused. Get answers. Don't let him manipulate you. The doors opened onto a reception area she'd only seen dark and empty. Now it was all polished wood and soft lighting, with a receptionist who looked up with a professional smile. Can I help you? Ariadne Stevens. I have a 9 a.m. with Mr. Hadley. The smile didn't falter, but something shifted in the woman's eyes. Recognition. She'd seen the video. Of course. One moment. The receptionist typed something, then spoke into her headset. Miss Stevens is here. Yes, sir. She looked up. He's ready for you. Last door on the left. Ariadne walked down the hallway, her footsteps silent on carpet she'd vacuumed a dozen times. Family photos lined the walls, Robert at charity events, Robert shaking hands with politicians, Robert with his arm around a teenage boy who had his same dark hair and sharp features. Christopher. Her half-brother smiled out from those frames with an easy confidence Ariadne had never felt in her life. She stopped at the last door. Raised her hand to knock. It opened before she could. Robert Hadley stood there, and he looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His eyes were red-rimmed, his tie slightly crooked. For a man who probably had stylists and handlers, the dishevelment was shocking. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. Please. The office was exactly as she'd left it Sunday night, massive desk, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, leather furniture that cost more than a year of her mother's salary. But now Robert was in it, and the space felt different. Smaller, somehow. Sit. Please. Ariadne remained standing. You said you had proof. Explanations. I do. Robert moved to his desk, but didn't sit either. Instead, he pulled out that bottom drawer, the one with her mother's photograph. He set the frame on the desk between them. I loved her, he said simply. That's the first thing you need to know. I loved Mallory Stevens more than I've ever loved anyone in my life. You have a strange way of showing love. I was 26. Scared. Stupid. His voice cracked. And I was being blackmailed. Ariadne blinked. What? Robert pulled out a folder, slid it across the desk. My mother, Eleanor Hadley, was dying. Cancer. The same kind that killed your mother, actually. His laugh was bitter. She had maybe 6 months left. And she controlled everything. The company, the money, the family reputation. All of it. Ariadne opened the folder. Inside were medical records, legal documents, and a letter. Handwritten. Dated February 2004. Robert. I know about the girl. The secretary. Don't insult me by denying it. You have 2 choices. End it immediately, pay her to stay silent, and marry someone appropriate. Or I cut you off entirely and give everything to your cousin James. You have 1 week to decide. The family legacy is bigger than your feelings. Act like a Hadley. Mother. She found out about us, Robert continued. Found out Mallory was pregnant. And she gave me an ultimatum. Abandon you both and inherit everything, or lose it all. So you chose money. The words tasted like ash. I chose survival. For all of us. Robert's hand shook as he pulled out more documents. Do you know what my mother was capable of? She'd destroyed business partners, ruined reputations, crushed anyone who threatened the family name. If I'd refused her, she wouldn't have just cut me off. She would have gone after Mallory. My mother could handle herself. Not against Eleanor Hadley. Not against a woman with unlimited resources and zero conscience. Robert's eyes met hers, and the pain there looked genuine. My mother hired investigators. She had photos of Mallory, recordings of us together, information about her family back in Ohio. She threatened to fabricate evidence that your mother was embezzling from the company. Threatened to have her arrested, deported. My mother was born in Pennsylvania. I know. But would a court have known that while she was sitting in jail, unable to afford a lawyer, fighting charges that would take months to disprove? Robert slumped against the desk. My mother would have destroyed her, Ariadne. Destroyed her and you. I took the deal to protect you both. Ariadne's head spun. This wasn't the story she'd expected. Wasn't the simple villain narrative that had fueled her anger. The NDA, she said. The money. My mother's lawyers drew it up. I begged her to make it more. $1 million. Enough for Mallory to never work again. But my mother said 50,000. Said it needed to be enough to matter but not enough to give her ideas. Robert's voice dripped with disgust. I opened an account. For you. In secret. I've been putting money into it for 20 years. I don't want your money. I know. But it's there. $2 million. Yours whenever you want it. He pulled out bank statements. I couldn't be your father. My mother made sure of that. But I could do this. I could make sure you had something. Ariadne stared at the papers. An account in her name. Statements going back 20 years. Deposits every month without fail. Your mother knew, Robert said softly. I sent her the account information after Eleanor died. Begged her to use it. For you. For her. For anything. His eyes glistened. She never touched a cent, sent it all back with a letter saying she didn't want my guilt money. That all she wanted was for me to know you. To be your father. She told me you threw money at her and walked away. I did. The 50,000. But I never walked away. I couldn't. Robert pulled out more papers, receipts, records, photographs. I hired investigators to watch over you both. Not to spy. To protect. To make sure you were safe. I knew where you lived, where you went to school. I knew when you got into Columbia. I knew when you had to drop out. He pulled out a photograph that made Ariadne's blood run cold. Her high school graduation. The photo her mother had framed in their apartment. Except this one was taken from a distance, showing both Ariadne and Mallory. And in the background, barely visible, a man in a black suit and sunglasses. Robert. You were there, Ariadne whispered. I was at everything. Every school play, every track meet, every important day. Always in the background. Always watching. Because it was the only way I could be your father. Tears ran down his face now, unchecked. And when your mother got sick, I tried to help. Anonymously. Paid off hospital bills. Made sure she got the best doctors. But she kept refusing. Kept sending it back. She didn't want my help. She wanted me. Then why didn't you go to her? Because of him. The door to the office burst open. A teenage boy stood there, red-faced and furious. Christopher. Her half-brother. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a young man, mid-20s, with sandy hair and sharp green eyes. He wore jeans and a leather jacket, completely out of place in this corporate tower. Because of me, the stranger said, his voice cold. Because Robert made a promise to my mother, too. And unlike you, I actually kept him on a leash. Robert went pale. Harrison, don't. Harrison? Ariadne's mind raced back to the letter. Morrison and Associates. Harrison Morrison. The stranger smiled, and it was all edges. Harrison Morrison. My father handled your mother's trust. Before he died, he asked me to make sure everything was executed properly. He stepped into the office, and something about his movement spoke of danger. I'm also the person who made sure Robert here couldn't contact Mallory or you for the past 20 years. Court orders. Restraining orders. Legal barriers you wouldn't believe. Why? Ariadne breathed. Because Eleanor Hadley paid my father a lot of money to make sure of it. And when he died, that contract passed to me. Harrison's eyes glittered. But now you're 20. All the conditions are met. The trust can be released. I don't understand. Eleanor Hadley felt guilty. Shocking, I know. But in her final weeks, she set up a trust for you. Property in Connecticut. Stocks. Bonds. About $8 million worth. Harrison pulled out his own folder. But there was a condition. Robert couldn't contact you or your mother until you turned 20. If he tried, you'd get nothing. Everything would go to charity. Ariadne looked at Robert. You stayed away because of money? I stayed away because my mother rigged it so I had no choice. Robert's voice broke. If I contacted you, you'd lose your inheritance. If I helped Mallory, you'd lose everything. She set it up perfectly. I had to abandon you to give you anything. Dad, stop. Christopher stepped forward, his young face anguished. Just stop. This is insane. You knew? Ariadne asked him. I found out last night. After you, Christopher's voice was thick. I have a sister. My whole life has been a lie. The room spun. This wasn't simple. Wasn't clean. It was layers of manipulation and control, Eleanor Hadley pulling strings from beyond the grave. Harrison watched them all with cool detachment. The trust unlocks today. All the documents, all the money. But there's one more condition. He smiled. Eleanor left a letter. To be read by both her granddaughter and her lawyer. Together. Before anything is released. What does it say? Robert demanded. I don't know. It's sealed. I'm just the delivery system. Harrison pulled an envelope from his jacket. Thick. Official. Sealed with red wax. But I'm guessing it's going to make this whole situation even more complicated. He held it out to Ariadne. Your choice. We can open this now, learn what Eleanor wanted you to know, and release the trust. Or you can walk away. Refuse it all. Live your life without the Hadley family drama. Ariadne looked at the envelope. At Robert, who'd apparently loved her mother but abandoned them anyway. At Christopher, who looked lost and scared. At Harrison, who was entirely too calm about destroying a family. What secrets are in that letter? And why do I not trust Harrison? Comment below what you think. And stay subscribed because this is about to get so much more twisted. Open it, she said. Harrison broke the seal. Pulled out a letter written in elegant handwriting on thick stationery. He began to read. To my granddaughter Ariadne. If you're reading this, I'm dead. Good. I was a terrible person who did terrible things. But I'm about to do one decent thing before I go. Everything I told Robert about protecting you was a lie. I didn't blackmail him to save the family. I did it because your mother was my husband's daughter. Mallory Stevens was my husband's child from an affair. Which made her Robert's half-sister. Which makes you. Harrison stopped reading. The silence in the office was deafening. Ariadne felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. No, she whispered. Harrison's eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw something other than cool detachment. Pity. Eleanor Hadley separated your parents because they were brother and sister, he said quietly. She paid your mother to disappear because the alternative was a scandal that would destroy everything. And the baby, Harrison continued, you were the product of an incestuous relationship that neither of them knew about. The world went dark at the edges. The last thing Ariadne saw before her legs gave out was Robert's face, white with shock, and Christopher catching her before she hit the ground. And Harrison Morrison, watching it all with eyes that held secrets even darker than the ones that had just been revealed. Ariadne woke up on a leather couch that smelled like expensive cologne and lies. Christopher stood over her, holding a glass of water with shaking hands. Behind him, Robert paced like a caged animal, his phone pressed to his ear. I don't care what time it is in London. Wake him up. I need those DNA records from my father's estate. Everything. Now. Ariadne sat up too fast. The room tilted. Easy, Christopher said, his voice surprisingly gentle. You hit your head on the desk on the way down. She touched her temple, felt the tender spot forming there. Physical pain. Something real to focus on besides the nightmare Harrison had just read aloud. Harrison. He stood by the windows, that sealed letter still in his hands, watching them all with those calculating green eyes. You're lying, Ariadne said. Her voice sounded hollow. That letter is fake. Some kind of sick joke. I wish it were. Harrison turned the pages toward her. The handwriting matched the other letter from Eleanor. Ariadne had studied it enough last night to recognize the sharp, elegant script. But I can arrange for authentication if you'd like. Handwriting experts, paper dating, ink analysis. My mother would have known. Ariadne stood, swayed, let Christopher steady her with a hand on her elbow. If we were, she would have known. Would she? Harrison moved closer, and Ariadne caught his scent, leather and something crisp, like winter air. Your mother was born Mallory Jean Patterson. Adopted at 6 months old by James and Ruth Patterson of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Her adoption was closed. She never knew her birth parents. Robert stopped pacing. How do you know that? Because my father handled that adoption too. Funny coincidence, isn't it? Harrison's smile was sharp. Eleanor Hadley paid him very well over the years. To handle sensitive family matters. To make problems disappear. Your father was her fixer, Ariadne said slowly. My father was a lot of things. Most of them not particularly legal. Harrison set the letter on the desk. But he kept meticulous records. And before he died, he told me where to find them all. Insurance, he called it. In case the Hadley family ever tried to bury the truth. What truth? Christopher demanded. His hand was still on Ariadne's elbow, and she noticed he hadn't let go. Protective. This boy who'd found out about her existence less than 12 hours ago. What else are you hiding? Christopher, Robert started. No, Dad. No more secrets. No more lies. Christopher's voice cracked. I just found out I have a sister. Now I'm finding out he couldn't finish. We don't know what she is yet, Robert said firmly. He ended his call, moved to his computer. I'm pulling my father's medical records. If he had another child, there will be evidence. Blood type, genetic markers in his files. Something. And if there is? Ariadne asked. The question felt like swallowing glass. Robert's hand stilled on the keyboard. Then we deal with it. Together. Together? Ariadne laughed, and the sound was broken. I don't even know you. And now you're telling me you might be she couldn't say it. Couldn't make it real. Her phone buzzed. Theo. Saw the news. Robert's office released a statement saying your family. Family? Ari, what happened? Are you okay? News. Of course. The confrontation last night had been public. By now, every media outlet in the country was running stories about Robert Hadley's secret daughter. She typed back, I'm fine, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Where are you? His office. With him. And his son. And a lawyer who just blew up my entire life. I'm coming over. No. Too many people already. I'll call you later. She put the phone away and found Harrison watching her. Boyfriend? He asked casually. Best friend. Not that it's your business. Everything about you is my business now. You're the key to an $8 million trust I'm legally obligated to manage. Harrison tilted his head. But I'm curious. How does it feel? Finding out your entire existence might be built on a lie. Harrison. Robert's voice was deadly quiet. Get out. Can't. I'm required to be present when the trust is discussed. Eleanor's terms. But Harrison raised his hands in mock surrender. Though I can step outside while you have your family crisis. Do that. Harrison moved toward the door, but paused next to Ariadne. Leaned in close enough that only she could hear. The letter is real. But that doesn't mean it's true. Eleanor Hadley was a master manipulator. Ask yourself why she'd confess this secret after keeping it for 25 years. What does she gain? Then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him. Ariadne stared after him. What did that mean? It means Harrison Morrison is his father's son, Robert said grimly. Playing games, creating chaos. Don't trust him. I don't trust anyone right now. Fair. Robert pulled up a file on his computer. But I need you to trust this. My father, William Hadley, died in 1998. Heart attack. He was 63. Before he died, he underwent extensive medical testing. If he had another child, there would be genetic screenings, blood work, something in his medical history. Unless he didn't know either, Christopher said quietly. They all looked at him. What if Eleanor was the only one who knew? What if she found out and kept it secret? Used it as leverage? Christopher's face was pale but his voice was steady. Grandmother was, she was controlling. Obsessive about the family image. If Granddad had an affair that produced a child, she wouldn't expose it. She'd weaponize it. Robert stared at his son like he was seeing him for the first time. When did you get so smart? I've been paying attention. To you. To how you handled business. How you handled. Christopher glanced at Ariadne. How you handled losing her. You'd stare at that picture when you thought I wasn't watching. I knew there was someone. I just never knew who. I'm sorry, Robert said. I should have told you. Yeah. You should have. But Christopher moved to stand beside his father at the desk. But right now, we need to figure out if this is real. If Ariadne is. He swallowed hard. If we need to deal with what that means. Ariadne watched them, father and son, unified despite the chaos. A unit. A family. Something she'd never had. The medical records won't be enough, she said. We need DNA tests. Yours and mine. Actual proof. Agreed. Robert pulled out his phone again. I have a private lab we use for the company. They're discreet. We can have results in 48 hours. 48 hours. Ariadne felt something crack inside her chest. 48 hours to find out if my entire life has been a lie. If my mother and I, her voice broke. Christopher crossed to her, this boy, this stranger, who was either her half-brother or her uncle or something worse. Hey, he said softly. Whatever those tests say, it doesn't change what happened to you. Doesn't change that our grandmother was a monster. Doesn't change that you deserve answers. Your grandmother might have been my grandmother too. Then we're cousins. Or siblings. Or, Christopher's jaw set. Or something else. But we're family. That's what matters. Ariadne looked at this 17-year-old with his earnest eyes and his father's stubborn chin, and felt something unexpected, hope. "You don't have to be nice to me," she said. "This threatens everything you have. Your inheritance, your family, your whole life. You think I care about money?" Christopher laughed bitterly. "My whole life has been about money. About the family image. About being the perfect Hadley heir." He met her eyes. "Finding out about you? It's the most real thing that's happened to me in years." The door opened. Harrison was back, carrying coffee. "Touching family moment. Hate to interrupt." He set 3 cups on the desk. "But you should know the media is downstairs. 15 reporters and counting. They want a statement about the secret daughter." "Tell them no comment," Robert said. "I did. They're not leaving." Harrison sipped his own coffee. "Also, someone leaked Eleanor's letter. I'm guessing a paralegal at my father's firm. It'll be online within the hour." Ariadne's stomach dropped. "The whole thing?" "The whole thing. Including the incest revelation." Harrison's expression was neutral. "You're about to become the most famous person in New York. The billionaire's secret incest baby. It's trending on Twitter already." "Oh God." Ariadne's legs went weak again. Christopher caught her. "This is insane. We don't even know if it's true." "Doesn't matter. The story is out." Harrison set down his cup. "Which brings me to why I'm really here. Yes, I manage the trust. But I also have information my father collected. Information about Eleanor's claims. About William Hadley's alleged affair. About Mallory's adoption." "Information you're just mentioning now?" Robert demanded. "Information I wanted to see how you'd react to first." Harrison pulled out another folder. "My father didn't trust Eleanor Hadley. Thought she might be lying about the affair to justify separating Robert and Mallory. So he investigated. Quietly. He spread documents across the desk. Birth certificates. Adoption papers. Private investigator reports. Mallory Patterson was adopted in 1983. Birth mother listed as Jane Doe. Birth father unknown. The adoption was arranged by Eleanor Hadley's personal attorneys." Harrison pointed to a highlighted section. "But the hospital records show something interesting. The baby was born in Greenwich, Connecticut. At a private clinic that specialized in discreet deliveries for wealthy families." "You think Eleanor arranged the adoption because the baby was her husband's?" Ariadne asked. "I think Eleanor arranged the adoption because it gave her power. Over William. Over the situation. Over the narrative." Harrison pulled out a photograph. "But my father found this in William's personal effects after he died. Hidden in a safe deposit box Eleanor didn't know about." The photo showed a young woman, maybe 19, holding a newborn baby. She had Mallory's eyes. Mallory's smile. On the back, in faded ink, "Sarah and our daughter. May 1983. "William kept this," Harrison said quietly. "Kept it secret for 15 years. Until he died." Robert picked up the photo with shaking hands. "Sarah Morrison. My father had an affair with a girl named Sarah? Morrison?" Ariadne's head snapped up. Like my father." Harrison Morrison Sr. Harrison's smile was cold. "Sarah was my father's younger sister. Which makes me Mallory's cousin. Which makes me..." He looked at Ariadne. "Your second cousin. Or your uncle. Depending on what the DNA says about Robert." The room spun again. Harrison Morrison wasn't just the lawyer. He was family. Tangled up in this mess just like the rest of them. "Why didn't you tell me?" Robert asked, his voice dangerous. "Because I wanted to see if you'd do the right thing. If you'd be honest with Ariadne without me forcing you." Harrison's eyes were hard. My Aunt Sarah died in childbirth with her second pregnancy. The baby, Mallory's full biological sister, died too. She was alone, abandoned by William Hadley, relying on my father for everything. And when she died, William didn't even come to the funeral. He couldn't, Robert said quietly. Eleanor would have. Eleanor would have what? Been angry? Divorced him? Harrison's voice rose. My aunt died alone because your father was too weak to stand up to his wife. And then Eleanor took Sarah's baby, Mallory, and hid her away like a dirty secret. Gave her to strangers. And you've been sitting on this information for how long? Ariadne asked. Since my father died. 3 years. Harrison looked at her. I've been waiting for you to turn 20. Waiting for the trust conditions to be met. Waiting to burn down the Hadley family the way they burned down mine. This isn't about the trust, Christopher said slowly. This is about revenge. This is about justice. Harrison's eyes blazed. Eleanor Hadley destroyed my family. Now I'm going to expose what she did to yours. By destroying Ariadne in the process? Robert stepped forward. She's collateral damage to you? She's the truth. The living proof of everything Eleanor tried to hide. Harrison looked at Ariadne. And she deserves to know that her mother, Mallory, spent her whole life being controlled by Eleanor. Even after William died. Even after Eleanor died. The NDA, the restraining orders, the legal barriers keeping Robert away, all of it was Eleanor's design. Executed by my father. Continued by me. You kept them apart, Ariadne whispered. Even when you knew it was destroying them. I kept them apart because it's what my father wanted. What he was paid to do. Harrison's mask cracked, just for a moment. But I also did it because I was angry. Because the Hadleys took everything from my family and walked away clean. So you made me a weapon. Ariadne's voice was ice. I made you free. The trust unlocks today. $8 million. Property. Independence. Everything Eleanor tried to deny you. Harrison pulled out more papers. Sign here, and it's yours. All of it. No strings. No conditions. Except the publicity. The scandal. The media circus calling me the incest baby. Except that. Ariadne looked at the papers. At the promise of freedom. Of never struggling again. Of having everything her mother never had. All she had to do was let Harrison destroy the Hadley family. And maybe destroy herself in the process. Her phone rang. Theo again. She answered. Not a good time. Ari, turn on the news. Any channel. Now. Robert grabbed a remote, turned on the TV mounted on his wall. Every channel showed the same thing, Ariadne's face. Her mother's picture. And the headline. Billionaire secret incest scandal, DNA tests ordered for Robert Hadley and daughter. A reporter's voice, sources close to the family say Eleanor Hadley's deathbed confession reveals a 20-year cover-up of an incestuous relationship between her son Robert and his half-sister Mallory Stevens, who died last month of cancer. Ariadne couldn't breathe. How? Robert demanded. We just decided on DNA tests 5 minutes ago. Harrison had gone pale. I didn't leak that. I swear, I didn't. The office door burst open. A woman strode in, 50, elegant, with sharp eyes and sharper cheekbones. She was followed by 2 men in suits. Robert, darling. Her voice dripped poison. We need to talk about damage control. Victoria, Robert said flatly. What are you doing here? Saving the company you're determined to destroy. Victoria's eyes swept over Ariadne with cold assessment. You must be the problem. I'm Victoria Chen, Hadley Enterprises Chief Operating Officer. And you're about to sign a very generous NDA and disappear. Who is Victoria and what's her agenda? This is getting wild. Drop your theories below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, seriously, subscribe because you need to see where this goes. I'm not signing anything, Ariadne said. Victoria's smile was razor-sharp. Then you're a fool. We're offering $2 million for your silence. More than generous considering you're about to become the most hated woman in America. Victoria, that's enough. Robert moved between them. She's not going anywhere. She's a PR disaster. The stock dropped 12 points in the last hour. Victoria pulled out her tablet, shoved it toward Robert. The board is in emergency session. They want your resignation. Let them have it. Everyone stared at Robert. What? Victoria's composure cracked. I said let them have it. The company, the position, all of it. Robert looked at Ariadne. I spent 20 years choosing money over family. I'm done. Dad, Christopher started. No. Your grandmother manipulated all of us. Controlled us with money and fear and lies. Robert's voice was steel. I won't let her win. Not anymore. Harrison stepped forward. Noble speech. But it doesn't change the DNA question. Are you Ariadne's father or her uncle? Does it matter? Christopher said suddenly. Either way, Eleanor separated them. Either way, she destroyed lives. The specifics don't change that. The specifics change everything, Victoria snapped. If this is incest, the company is finished. Every client will run. Every partnership will dissolve. Then let it dissolve. Robert slammed his hand on the desk. My mother built this empire on secrets and cruelty. Maybe it deserves to fall. Ariadne's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The DNA results you're waiting for? I already have them. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. Come alone. Jay. Who's Jay? She whispered. Harrison looked over her shoulder, and his face went white. That's impossible. What? Jay James Hadley. Robert's cousin. Harrison grabbed her phone. He's been dead for 10 years. The office went silent. James died in a car accident, Robert said slowly. In 2014. I went to his funeral. Did you see the body? Harrison asked. Robert's silence was answer enough. Victoria laughed coldly. This is absurd. James is dead. Someone's playing games. Another text, roof. Now. Or the real DNA results go public in 4 minutes. I'm going, Ariadne said. Absolutely not. Robert moved to block her. This could be dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. Ariadne pushed past him. But if someone has answers, I'm getting them. Then I'm coming with you, Harrison said. Me too, Christopher added. The text said alone. And I said I'm coming. Harrison's tone left no room for argument. If James Hadley is somehow alive, he's more dangerous than you know. They took the emergency stairs to the roof. Ariadne's heart hammered with each step. The roof was empty. Just HVAC units and the Manhattan skyline glittering beyond. Nobody's here, Christopher said. Then a door on the opposite side opened. A man stepped out. 50-ish, lean, with Robert's dark hair gone gray at the temples. He wore a simple black suit and moved like a ghost. Hello, Robert, he said. It's been a long time. Robert went white as death. James. You're, how? Dead? Yes, I know. Convenient, wasn't it? James's smile was cold. Eleanor arranged it. Fake death, new identity, exile in Europe. All because I threatened to expose her secrets. What secrets? Ariadne demanded. James's eyes fixed on her. You. Your mother. The truth Eleanor spent millions hiding. He pulled out a folder. I have the real DNA results. From tests Eleanor ran 25 years ago when she first suspected William and Mallory's relationship. How did you get those? Harrison asked. I was Eleanor's confessor in her final days. She told me everything. Gave me everything. As insurance. James opened the folder. Robert isn't your uncle, Ariadne. Relief flooded through her. He's not your father either. The relief vanished. What? Robert breathed. James pulled out a document. Mallory Stevens was William Hadley's biological daughter. That's true. But you, Ariadne, your father was someone else entirely. He handed her a DNA report. Your mother had an affair. With someone she met after Robert abandoned her. Someone who helped her, protected her, loved her. James's eyes softened. Someone who died before you were born, never knowing you existed. Ariadne stared at the name on the report. Biological father, Harrison Morrison Sr. She looked at Harrison, whose face had gone slack with shock. No, Harrison whispered. That's not possible. My father never. Your father loved Mallory like a daughter. Except it wasn't paternal. James's voice was gentle. Eleanor discovered it. Used it as leverage to control him for decades. He was your lawyer, Ariadne, but also your father. Harrison stumbled backward. You're lying. I wish I were. James pulled out photographs. Harrison Sr. and Mallory, together. Intimate. Dated months after Robert's abandonment. She was grieving, James continued. Your father was kind. It happened once. She never told him. Never told anyone. Ariadne looked at Harrison, her half-brother. This means... Christopher said slowly. This means Ariadne and Robert aren't related by blood at all, James finished. Eleanor lied. About everything. She separated Robert and Mallory for nothing. Destroyed their lives over a fiction. Why? Robert's voice broke. Why would she lie? Because Mallory was still William's daughter. Still carried Hadley blood. Eleanor couldn't stomach her son being with his half-sister, even though Ariadne proved it never resulted in. James trailed off. Eleanor was sick. Obsessive. She created the incest story to justify tearing you apart. And then, when the truth proved her wrong, she buried it deeper. Ariadne couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. So Robert could have been with my mother all along? Yes. They could have been a family? Yes. And Eleanor destroyed that for nothing? For pride. For control. For a lie. James handed her another paper. This is Eleanor's real confession. Written days before she died. Admitting everything. Ariadne read it through tears. I was wrong. I separated them over nothing. Destroyed them for my own vanity. Robert, if you're reading this, find them. Find Mallory and your daughter. Be the father I never let you be. Wait, another line at the bottom. Ariadne isn't his daughter. She's Harrison's. But she was supposed to be. In another life, another world, Mallory and Robert's child would have been loved, wanted, celebrated. I stole that world from them. I'm sorry. She knew, Ariadne whispered. Before she died, she knew the truth. And she set up the trust to make it right. To give you what she stole from your mother. James looked at Robert. She wanted you to find each other. To be family, even if not by blood. Harrison sank to his knees. My father. All those years. He knew? He suspected. Never confirmed. Loved you both in secret. James knelt beside him. I'm sorry. Ariadne looked at Harrison, this man who'd been her enemy an hour ago. Now her brother. We're family, she said softly. Harrison looked up, eyes red. I tried to destroy you. You tried to find the truth. You did. She held out her hand. He took it. "This is insane," Christopher said. "So Ariadne and my dad aren't related," James confirmed. "Eleanor's lie dies here." Robert was staring at Mallory's photograph. "I could have saved her. Could have been there. Could have loved her," Ariadne finished. "The way she loved you. Until the end." Their eyes met across the roof. "I'm so sorry," Robert whispered. "I know." And for the first time Ariadne believed it. "What just happened?" Comment your reactions. And make sure you're subscribed because part 6 is going to test everyone. The moment shattered when Victoria appeared in the rooftop doorway, her phone raised high. "Recorded every word," she said, her smile vicious. "The board will love this. Fake deaths, secret affairs, DNA scandals." She looked at Robert. "You're finished." "Victoria, don't," Robert started. "Too late. Already sent." She pocketed her phone. "Security is on their way. Mr. Hadley, you're officially removed as CEO. Effective immediately." "You can't do that," Christopher said. "The board just did. Unanimous vote." Victoria's eyes gleamed. "And you, Ariadne Stevens, are being sued for defamation, emotional distress, and corporate sabotage. Our lawyers are filing within the hour." "She didn't do anything." Harrison stepped forward. "She disrupted a charity gala, caused stock prices to plummet, and created a media circus that's cost this company $50 million in market value." Victoria pulled out papers. "Sign the NDA and walk away with nothing, or fight us in court for the next decade." Ariadne's hands shook. "I just wanted answers. And you got them. Congratulations. Now you're broke, infamous, and unemployable." Victoria turned to leave. "Security will escort you all out." James grabbed Victoria's arm. "You're making a mistake. Remove your hand or I'll have you arrested for assault." Victoria jerked free. "Oh wait, you're already supposed to be dead. That's identity fraud. I wonder what the police will think." James released her, his face dark. "Dad?" Christopher's voice was small. "What do we do?" Robert looked broken. "I don't know." Ariadne's phone rang. "Theo." "Don't answer," Victoria snapped. "You're on company property. All communications are subject to." Ariadne answered anyway. "Theo?" "Ari, they're at your apartment. Men in suits. They're seizing everything. Documents, your mom's things, photos, they say it's evidence for the lawsuit." Her stomach dropped. "No. Those are all I have left of her. I tried to stop them. They threatened to arrest me." Theo's voice cracked. "I'm so sorry." Ariadne ended the call, turned to Victoria. "You're taking my mother's belongings?" "We're securing evidence. Standard procedure." Victoria's smile was ice. "You should have taken the money when I offered it." "You're destroying her," Harrison said quietly. "For what? To protect a company built on lies? To protect thousands of jobs, shareholders, legacies." Victoria's voice hardened. "One girl's feelings don't matter against that." "Get out," Robert said. "Now." "Gladly. Security will be here in 2 minutes. If you're still on the property, you'll be arrested for trespassing." Victoria paused at the door. "All of you. Including you, Robert. This isn't your building anymore." She left. Silence crashed over the roof. "We need to go," James said. "Now." "She's not bluffing about security." "Where?" Ariadne asked. "I have no home. No job. No money until the trust clears, and Victoria will probably freeze that in court." "My apartment," Harrison offered. "It's small, but..." They'll find us, Christopher interrupted. Victoria has resources. Investigators. Then we run, James said. I've been dead for 10 years. I know how to disappear. I'm not running. Ariadne's voice was steel. My mother didn't run. She stayed and fought and survived. I'm not giving Victoria the satisfaction. Then you'll lose everything, Robert said quietly. The lawsuit alone will bury you. I've already lost everything. Ariadne looked at him. My mother. My past. My future. What else can they take? Your freedom. Your reputation. Your life. Robert moved closer. Please. Let me help. Let me fix this. You can't. You have no power anymore. I have money. Resources. Connections. That Victoria controls now. Ariadne stepped back. You're as trapped as I am. The rooftop door burst open. 4 security guards. Everyone needs to leave. Now. They had no choice. Down in the lobby, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. Questions screamed from all directions. Ariadne. Is it true you're suing for inheritance? Robert. Did you know about the incest? Christopher. How does it feel to have a sister? Security pushed them through the crowd and onto the street. Then they were alone on the sidewalk. 5 people connected by lies and loss and DNA. What now? Christopher asked. Nobody had an answer. Ariadne's phone buzzed. A news alert. Breaking, Ariadne Stevens arrested, warrant issued for fraud and extortion. What? She showed them the screen. Harrison went pale. Victoria moved fast. They're claiming you tried to blackmail Robert. That's insane. Doesn't matter. There's a warrant. You need a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. A black car pulled up. The window rolled down. Victoria sat inside, smiling. I can make this all go away, Ariadne. Sign the NDA. Disappear. Or go to jail tonight. Ariadne looked at Robert, at Harrison, at Christopher and James. Her new family. Powerless to help her. 48 hours, Victoria said. Then I press charges. Choose wisely. The car drove away. Ariadne stood on the Manhattan sidewalk, watching her last chance at justice disappear. And for the first time since her mother died, she felt completely, utterly alone. Theo's apartment smelled like coffee and old books. Ariadne sat on his couch at midnight, staring at nothing. Harrison paced. Christopher scrolled through his phone, reading horrible headlines aloud until his father told him to stop. Robert stood by the window, silent. James had disappeared hours ago, muttering something about calling in favors. 48 hours, Ariadne said finally. Then I'm arrested for crimes I didn't commit. We'll fight it, Harrison said. I'm a lawyer. I can. You're a trust attorney. Not a criminal defense specialist. Ariadne laughed bitterly. And you just found out I'm your sister. You're too close to this. Then we hire someone. With what money? The trust is frozen. Victoria saw to that. Theo emerged from his bedroom carrying a laptop. Stop talking about what you can't do. Start thinking about what you can. Which is what, exactly? Ariadne asked. Expose Victoria. Theo set the laptop down. She's dirty. Has to be. Nobody moves that fast, that ruthlessly, without skeletons. We have 48 hours, Christopher said. We can't investigate her entire life in. We don't have to. Theo pulled up a news article. Victoria Chen became COO 3 years ago. Right after the previous COO, Martin Webb, died in a suspicious accident. Harrison stopped pacing. Define suspicious. Car crash. Single vehicle. No witnesses. Police ruled it accidental, but Webb's family claimed he'd been receiving threats. Theo clicked through more articles. He was planning to expose financial irregularities at Hadley Enterprises. Then he died. Then Victoria got his job. You think Victoria killed him? Robert asked quietly. I think it's a hell of a coincidence. Theo looked at Ariadne. Your mom kept everything, right? Every document, every record? Yes. Why? Because she worked at Hadley Enterprises for 3 years. If there were financial irregularities back then, she might have seen something. Kept something. Ariadne's heart jumped. The boxes. From her storage unit. I never went through all of them. Where are they? My apartment. But Victoria's men seized, she stopped. Wait. They took what was in the apartment. Not what was in storage. I still have the key. Harrison grinned. Then we go to storage. Now. It's midnight, Christopher said. It's 24/7 access. Ariadne was already moving. Theo, you're brilliant. I know. You can thank me by staying out of prison. They took Theo's car to the storage facility in Queens. Ariadne's hands shook as she unlocked Unit 237. Inside were a dozen boxes. Her mother's life in cardboard. Spread out, Harrison said. Look for anything from 2003 to 2005. Financial records, memos, emails she might have printed. They tore through boxes. Old clothes. Photos. Books. Then Christopher said, found something. A manila folder. Labeled work, keep safe in her mother's handwriting. Inside were photocopies of financial documents. Transfers. Accounts. Numbers that didn't match official reports. She documented it, Robert breathed. Mallory found evidence of embezzlement and kept copies. Look at the signatures. Harrison pointed. Victoria Chen. She was junior staff back then. And she was stealing. $2 million, Ariadne read. Funneled through shell companies. This is why Eleanor wanted Mallory gone. James appeared in the doorway, when had he arrived? Mallory found Victoria's theft. Reported it to HR. Eleanor covered it up because exposing it would hurt the company. But she needed Mallory gone in case she talked. So the whole incest story, Christopher started, was cover. Eleanor needed a reason to force Mallory out with an NDA. James pulled out his phone. And Victoria's been terrified ever since that the evidence would surface. That's why she moved so fast against Ariadne. She's protecting herself. We have her, Harrison said. This is fraud. Embezzlement. We take this to the police. And she'll claim the documents are fake. That Ariadne fabricated them for the lawsuit. Robert shook his head. We need more. I can get more. James smiled. I told you I was calling in favors. I have someone inside Hadley Enterprises. Someone who's been watching Victoria for years. Someone who wants her gone as badly as we do. Who? Ariadne asked. James's phone rang. He answered, listened, then smiled. Meet us at Hadley Tower. Tomorrow morning. 7 a.m. Bring the documents. He hung up. My contact will let us into Victoria's office. We'll find the original records. Match them to Mallory's copies. Build an airtight case. That's breaking and entering, Harrison said. That's justice. James looked at Ariadne. Your mother protected this evidence for 20 years. She knew someday it would matter. She was right. Ariadne held the folder to her chest. She was always right. Then let's finish what she started. Robert put his hand on her shoulder. Together. For the first time in days, Ariadne felt hope. They had a plan. They had evidence. They had family. Tomorrow, they'd take down Victoria Chen. Tomorrow, they'd get justice for Mallory Stevens. Tomorrow, everything would change. Victoria's office was dark at 6:45 a.m. James's contact, a security guard named Marcus who Victoria had wronged years ago, let them in through a service entrance. "You have 30 minutes, he whispered. "She arrives at 7:15. Sharp." They moved fast. Harrison went for the computer. Christopher kept watch. Robert searched filing cabinets. Ariadne stood in the center of Victoria's office, her mother's documents in hand, and felt the weight of 20 years pressing down. "Got it," Harrison said. "She kept digital copies." "Idiot." He plugged in a drive. Downloading everything. Robert pulled files from a locked drawer. Original transfer records. They match Mallory's copies exactly. "How much time?" James asked. Christopher checked his phone. 15 minutes. "She's early." "She's in the lobby." "We're not done." "We don't need to be." Ariadne pulled out her phone, started recording. "Harrison, send those files to every email address I'm about to give you. Board members. The SEC. The FBI. Every journalist who's been covering this story." Are you sure?" "Do it. Now." Harrison's fingers flew. Sent. Footsteps in the hallway. "She's coming," Christopher hissed. "Good." Ariadne stood her ground. The door opened. Victoria froze when she saw them. "What the hell are you doing in my office?" "Collecting evidence." Ariadne held up the files. "My mother documented your embezzlement in 2004. You stole $2 million. Eleanor covered it up, but made my mother sign an NDA to keep her quiet." Victoria's face went white. "Those documents are privileged. They're evidence of crimes. And they're already in the hands of federal investigators." Ariadne smiled coldly. "It's over, Victoria. You have no proof. We have everything. Digital records. Paper trails. Witness statements." Harrison stepped forward. "And I just sent it all to the authorities. The board. The press." Victoria's phone started buzzing. Then ringing. Notifications exploded. She looked at the screen and went pale. "You've destroyed me." "No. You destroyed yourself." Ariadne moved closer. "My mother tried to do the right thing. Report your crimes. And you people buried her for it. Ruined her life. Made her live in fear for 20 years. Eleanor made that call, not me. You benefited. You built your career on her silence." Ariadne's voice was steel. "Now everyone knows what you are." Victoria's phone rang again. She answered. "Yes. I understand. No, I can explain." Her face crumbled. "I see." She hung up. Looked at Robert. "The board wants my resignation. Immediately. And the FBI wants me to come in for questioning." "Good," Robert said simply. Victoria grabbed her purse, headed for the door. Stopped. "Your mother," she said to Ariadne. "Mallory. She was brave. Braver than any of us." Something almost human flickered in her eyes. "I'm sorry she paid for my mistakes." Then she was gone. Silence filled the office. "We did it," Christopher breathed. "Your mother did it." James handed Ariadne the files. She kept the evidence safe. Trusted that someday the truth would matter. Ariadne's phone buzzed. A news alert. Hadley Enterprises COO Victoria Chen resigns amid fraud investigation. Secret documents expose 20-year cover-up. Another, Ariadne Stevens cleared of all charges. Warrant withdrawn. She looked at Robert. At Harrison. At Christopher and James and Theo, who'd been there all night. Her family. Blood and chosen. What now? She asked. Robert smiled. Now we rebuild. All of us. The right way this time. The board wants to reinstate you as CEO, James said, checking his own phone. Emergency vote. Unanimous. I'll accept on one condition. Robert looked at Ariadne. You join the company. Not as my secret daughter. As family. As a Hadley. If you want the name. Ariadne's throat tightened. I have my mother's name. Then keep it. Wear it proudly. Robert's eyes shone. But let me be in your life. Let me try to be what I should have been 20 years ago. A father? A family. Ariadne looked at this man who'd lost so much. Who'd been manipulated and controlled, just like her mother. We start slow, she said. Coffee. Conversations. Getting to know each other. I'll take it. Robert smiled. Thank you. Harrison cleared his throat. So, sister. What do you want to do with $8 million? Ariadne thought of her mother. Of all the people struggling like Mallory had struggled. I want to start a foundation. For single parents who can't afford medical care. For kids who have to drop out of school to work. She looked at Robert. We'll fund it together. The Mallory Stevens Foundation. Robert's voice broke. She'd love that. I know. Christopher pulled out his phone. It's trending. The truth. People are calling you a hero, Ariadne. I'm not a hero. I'm just my mother's daughter. That's what makes you a hero, Theo said quietly. Outside the windows, the sun rose over Manhattan. A new day. A new beginning. Ariadne stood with her family, complicated, messy, real, and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. 6 months later. Ariadne stood in front of the Mallory Stevens Medical Center, watching workers install the sign above the entrance. She'd cry seeing this, Theo said beside her. She is crying. Ariadne wiped her eyes. Through me. The facility would open next week, free medical care for low-income families, childcare services, legal aid. Everything her mother had needed and never had. Funded by the trust. By Robert's personal fortune. By donations that poured in after the truth went public. Ari? Christopher jogged up, slightly out of breath. Dad's looking for you. Ribbon cutting starts in 10 minutes. She smiled at her brother, because that's what he'd become over the past months. Not half-brother. Just brother. Family. Tell him I'll be right there. Inside the community center, people gathered. Families who'd already been helped. Volunteers. Staff. And there, talking to a reporter, was Robert. He saw her and smiled. They'd had coffee every week for 6 months. Dinners with Christopher. Slowly building something real. Not the fantasy of what could have been, but the reality of what they were becoming. Harrison approached with legal documents. Trust is fully released. Every penny accounted for. He'd become her fiercest protector. Her brother in every way that mattered. Victoria? Ariadne asked. Pleaded guilty. 3 years minimum. Harrison's smile was grim. Justice. James appeared from somewhere, he did that, moved like a ghost. The foundation's already changing lives. Mallory would be proud. She'd be amazed we're all standing in the same room without yelling, Ariadne laughed. Give it time, Christopher joked. The ribbon cutting was simple. Beautiful. Robert handed Ariadne the scissors. You should do it, he said. This is your mother's legacy. Your vision. Our vision. She pulled Christopher and Harrison close. Our family's legacy. Together, they cut the ribbon. The crowd erupted in applause. Later, after the speeches and tours and photographs, Ariadne found herself alone in what would be her mother's memorial room. Photos of Mallory lined the walls. Her story told honestly, the struggle, the strength, the love. "Hey, Mom," Ariadne whispered. "We did it. You'd be so proud." She felt arms around her. Looked back to see Robert, tears streaming down his face. "I loved her," he said simply. "I need you to know that. Every day for 20 years, I loved her." "I know." Ariadne squeezed his hand. She knew too. She never stopped loving you either. They stood together, mourning what was lost, celebrating what they'd found. "Thank you," Robert said. "For giving me a chance. For letting me be part of your life. Thank you for showing up. For fighting for this. For her." Christopher and Harrison joined them. Then Theo. Then James. A family built not on blood alone, but on choice. On forgiveness. On love. "What's next?" Christopher asked. Ariadne looked at her family, at her mother's legacy, at the future stretching ahead. "Everything," she said. "We do everything she never got to do. We live. We love. We make her proud." "She's already proud," Robert said softly. "I promise you that." Outside, the Mallory Stevens Medical Center stood gleaming in the afternoon sun. A testament to a woman who'd fought alone. And a daughter who'd made sure no one else ever had to. Ariadne smiled. This was just the beginning. The end. What an incredible journey. Thank you so much for watching this story unfold. If you loved it, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below telling me which moment hit you hardest. Was it the rooftop revelation? The confrontation with Victoria? The ending? I read every single comment, and your support means everything. Drop your thoughts below, share this with someone who loves dramatic stories, and I'll see you in the next one. Until next time, remember, family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up. Who fights for you. Who stays? Much love to you all. Red Heart.